it is time. Disappointments, worst of, a DNF. It's going to be mostly disappointments, and it does not mean these are bad books. Many of these books are 3.5 to 4 stars, which I consider great books. It's just that I had certain expectations and we didn't meet them, and that just like is what it is. Also, disclaimer, I am talking about art, and there are no objective opinions in art. So, typically to become traditionally published, which is what I typically read, there is some value there. So, just, disclaimer that I'm not out here to hate on any books that you love. I'm out here to express my opinions and maybe help people pick up a book because they're like, well, actually that thing you hated, I would love, or vice versa, you have the same taste as me, steer clear. And also just like, I want to just express my opinions. It's not that deep. So, starting with some disappointments. These are authors that I've read from before and have loved, okay? So that's why they're disappointments. These are like, if I had to list my 10 to 15 favorite authors, these 3 women are on it, and I just didn't love these books, okay? Starting with The Unraveling by Karen Lord. This is a kind of successor to Redemption in Indigo, which is one of my favorite books of all time. I love Redemption in Indigo. I have read it with my eyeballs. I have listened to it. It's just one of my favorite things. And this is kind of a very unique and ambitious story. It's got these things called labyrinths. We're trying to use them to unpack what has happened in kind of a police procedural sort of situation, while also kind of following the trajectory of 2 characters who are kind of these mythical creatures in the previous books. And I liked it, but I didn't love it. And I think primarily because the project of this book wasn't really character focused. And the books that I love from Karen Lord are like, I love Pamela, I love Grace. Like, I have characters that I love and I think they're funny, and this just doesn't have that as much. This more has its narrative framework, it has its project, which I appreciated but didn't love, and at times felt a bit more like a chore, which was, slightly disappointing to me. That said, I'll still read anything that she comes out with because she's one of my favorite authors. Another one is Tasha Sori. She had a new release this year, The Isle and the Silver Sea. So I love the Burning Kingdoms trilogy. The Jasmine Throne, one of my favorite books of all time. I've read it 3 times, a near perfect book. Maybe a perfect book. I really love that book. I don't like Empire of Sand, which was her debut. And I do think the reason I didn't like Empire of Sand is I just didn't have buy-in to that love story. And that's my issue with this one. I really love the world building. I think the pacing is quite good. I like the themes of stories and how they shape a land. I think it was a little hampered by the fact that these 2 characters, who I can't even remember their names, because they're so much their archetypes in some ways, they have to be the knight and the witch, and they're in this tragic love story. And at first, I really liked that. But then I realized I don't really care about these people. Like, I don't have buy-in to caring about their arc, which is so weird considering how much I love Priya and Malini. So this just didn't work for me in that aspect, and I think because that's the emotional, centerpiece of the story, I felt a little bit disappointed. And then Abby Jimenez. I have given 3 of her other works 5 stars. Okay, I love Abby Jimenez contemporary romance. And so when we had Say You'll Remember Me come out, I was pumped. I even had the day off from work just as happenstance, and I was like, yes, I have the book, I have the day off, let's go. And I love the first, third of it, okay? The first date, how they meet, some of the cringy 2 online humor aside, so fun. But it's a long-distance relationship, and it was really sad and somber because of that. And I want to have more fun. I don't mind the heavy material that comes in a Abby Jimenez book. Just for the Summer is amazing. But this heaviness, I could never be happy with them because I also was remembering times when I was in a long-distance relationship. And so it was a little too realistic. I want my contemporary romance to be fantastical. I don't want it grounded, okay, is really what I'm getting at. So, didn't really work for me the way the other ones had. That said, still a 4-star. Like I'm saying, my disappointments aren't bad books. They just weren't what I wanted them to be. Next up, we have books that I wanted to like, but I am a Grinch. And that is essentially The Spell Shop and The Enchanted Greenhouse. I love Sarah Beth Durst. I read her fantasy trilogy that very few people have read. It's the Queens of Renthia series. Queen of Blood is the first book. Love it. So I know she can write characters and scenarios that I love. for some reason, these both felt bloated to me, and I didn't care about the characters that much. I liked the second one a smidge more, only when it became more of a fantasy romance than a cozy fantasy. When either of these is a cozy fantasy Hallmark movie thing, I'm not that into it. I found Keela super annoying in the first book, like super annoying. And so yeah, I don't like these that much. It's fine. They're 3 to 3.5 star books. They're kind of long for that. They're like 400 some pages. And I was really surprised that they weren't at least tight, because The Queen of Blood is so tight. It's like such a tropey, tight, good time. So I was really hoping for that here. That said, I'm really happy that these are popular, so people will then read Queen of Blood and stuff like that. But for me, personal disappointment. All right, now next up, we have what I was hoping would be a new horror author for me to be obsessed with, and that is My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. This is fine. It just did not land for me. And I think, unfortunately, it's just that, like, what he was bringing to the table, I've read in other ways that have just worked so much better for me, so I couldn't stop comparing it. So this is like a high school, dark, campy horror book. I say campy lightly. It's nostalgic, maybe. Maybe it's, like, you're going to think of the 80s when you read it, but I wouldn't say it's campy. It's honestly quite dark, thematically speaking. Like, the horrors of it really are, like, real-life contemporary 80s horrors, to the point where, like, I don't usually talk about content warnings, but I feel like content warnings need to be said for this book, because some people are going to go into it expecting the cover, and they're going to, like, maybe, I don't know, you just never know what baggage people go into books with, and I feel like I wasn't prepared, and I don't even have the baggage. But that said, if you are someone who needs content warnings, I will trust you to look at them yourself. My biggest issue here, I'm already struggling. What was the name of the main character of this story? I think her friend's name was Gretchen. I do not remember. And I think that really tells you how much of a surface level insert character she was. The things I know about her is she likes E.T., and she is poor, and she has a best friend, and she's good at school, but she's poor. Like, and these are not bad traits, but I don't know what her hopes and dreams are, per se. I just didn't feel connected to her. Now, compare that to My Heart is a Chainsaw, which is also pretty dark and has a lot of dark content and gruesome scenes. Jade Daniels is one of my favorite characters of all time. And, like, I think a theme of this disappointments list is sometimes I do need to care about a character to want to read a whole book about them. If I want something where it's not character-focused, my personal medium choice is TV, or movies, or things that are quicker. And actually, not even TV. For me to watch seasons of TV, I need to like the characters. Movies. Give me less than 2 hours, then I don't have to care about your characters as much, although it's always better if I do. So I don't remember her name. Hey, Abby. Her name is Abby. Okay. And so that's my first issue. It's just that she just felt so passive and reactionary and just not, like, very fleshed out. And then I just really was blindsided by how dark it was. I don't actually think that's a downside to the book. I was just blindsided by it. There are some really cruel and uncomfortable things that Gretchen does while she's possessed. Okay? Because if you can't tell, My Best Friend's Exorcism is a possession story, which I really like the Exorcism movie. Ryan's actually reading The Exorcism right now. Like, I have no issue with possession stories. I really like the possession of Alba Diaz. This one just didn't work for me. I don't think the mixed media elements really added a lot. I thought it was weird that my ebook had mixed media elements that my paperback didn't. That was bizarre, and I really liked the audio narrator for the book, but I couldn't handle her for this book. So, I just had a disappointing time overall. And my last and this is like a perfect transition into worst. And that is the Southern Reach series. Oh my goodness. Here's the thing. I should make a video on this series on its own. Have I even figured out how to talk about it, though? No, because I'm so stupid confused by it. Which I think is part feature and not a bug, and partly just not well done stuff. Like, there's just something not well done about it for me. So I read all 4 of them this year. With I guess my favorite being Authority, and my least favorite is between Absolution and Annihilation. I don't know. On one hand, I can appreciate what is being done here, and that there are thematic tones that really resonate with people. Like how disoriented and lost you can feel as a reader can really help you connect, I think, with how lost the characters feel. I feel this better in other works like Vita Nostra. And there was another book I read recently this year, The Impusium. Like, I think there are other works that work better for me, where I feel like the confusion I feel and disorientation makes sense and is more fun and more fulfilling. I don't feel fulfilled having read this. I feel like any of the themes that I hear people talking about, like, I'm like, yeah, sure, I've read that in X, Y, Z other ways that work better for me. I have no idea what's happened here. And some of the stylistic choices grate on my nerves. They're just not aesthetically what I appreciate. It doesn't matter if it's intentional, if it feels obnoxious, and it's obnoxious for 100 pages, it's obnoxious for 100 pages. And that happened several times for me. Sometimes I couldn't tell if the work was being pretentious or the character was being pretentious or a little bit of both. That definitely happened to me a lot. And I really hated how often I'd be like, oh, there would be moments where I'm like, yes, I get this. All right, I'm in. Maybe I'll reread it now. Maybe I will. And then instantly I'm like, nope, I'm out again. And even now, I'm still just like, if a friend of mine wants to read this series, I'm like, fine, let me know, because I might read it when you read it. Because maybe you can help me understand it. Because I want to understand. That's my disappointment in both the work and myself. I want to like it so much. Yeah, I don't know. Like, that's why I haven't made a video on it. Because, like, I don't even know how to articulate my thoughts, because I'm just like, it's a series I read and I gained very little from it, except for it was a lot of work and I'm very confused and I don't know what the point was, and I don't think the point is quite that there is no point. Like, I don't think it's one of those. Maybe a little bit, but I don't think it's completely, like, fatalistic. Like, I don't think that's actually the point. So yeah, that's how I feel about Southern Reach. It's just a silly time. All right, so now we're in to my worst. And I don't think I'm going to really rank these. I guess I'm staring at my list, and I guess I'll just go from how many emotions I get from it to the top, but I'm not really ranking these. So starting with, and this is honestly another good bridge book between disappointments and worst, and that's The Last White Man. Because I read Exit West by this author. I love Exit West. It's one of my favorite books. I think how it chooses to explore asylum and borders and what a global community looks like when you can't control physical borders. I think it did that really well on a global scale and an intimate scale. Amazing. This one's trying to do another thing where it's like, okay, we're going to pivotally change this one big X factor that does cause us a lot of social upheaval right now. In this case, changing color of skin. And see what happens, but it's much shorter, and it's sort of trying to be an intimate scale, and sort of trying to be a global scale, but not really. And reading the author's note, I see where he comes from. I see what he was trying to do, but I think it's surface level, and I think it's lazy, and I think when you're talking about something as harmful as racism and colorism in the United States in particular, more care needs to be put into it. Like, for example, the whole point of this book is when some people wake up, they suddenly are no longer white, they are black. But there's this implication that maybe also they're unrecognizable because of this color change, which I think you would be startled if someone showed up in front of you a different color than what they normally are, but they still retain a lot of their bone structure and you would know who they are. Like, no one watched Wicked and went, oh, that's not Cynthia. Like, Elphaba is played by Cynthia. If you put them side, like, you know, it's not completely crazy. Like, Zoe Saldana, when she's Gamora, we know who she is. And we know who she is when she's in Avatar and she's blue. Like, these aren't wild things. And so I thought that was really weird and lazy world building, and I think could be taken to mean, like, there are also just certain bone features that people are playing. I don't know. It was weird. I couldn't understand why that was a part of it. And also, like I said, it's just from the perspective of the white characters. You don't have any perspectives from the already marginalized characters. Now, that said, the author himself is of a marginalized identity, and he was inspired by what happened to him in the United States after 9/11. So I don't think this comes from a bad place, but I do think it wasn't done to the standards I would personally like a thematic work like this to be done, and I was disappointed. And I think there can be some harm that could come from this if someone's reading it with very little media literacy, which I think is not necessarily the author's responsibility, but I do appreciate more when authors take that into account when they are creating their art. So now let's talk about, I don't know, just one I don't like that much, and that's The Unworthy. That's the author who wrote Tender is the Flesh. I listened to this and I just didn't like it. I don't really have deep thoughts about it. It seemed cruel for the sake of cruelness' sake at times. Oh gosh, I don't even remember a lot about this because it was so just like, I don't enjoy this book. Like, I just don't enjoy it. I don't want it to take up brain space anymore. So for me, it just didn't resonate or land. I don't think it was that engaging. It was pretty short, but it didn't really pack a punch. Obviously, I'm really struggling. But I guess we have this group of women, and they're kind of in this cult that's telling them to act a certain way, and our main character is very unlikable, has very cruel thoughts, really wants to, like, harm those people around her, psychologically or otherwise, and then I think tries to escape. It was very, like, edgy Handmaid's Tale. And, like, I like Handmaid's Tale, but I also just, I don't know. It was epistolary, it was dark post-apocalyptic future, it was kind of just dark, not for the sake of darkness, but I didn't care that much, and I can handle dark things. I just was like, oh, we're doing this cruel thing again. Sounds good. Like, I don't know, it just didn't work for me. Just didn't like it. Okay, now we're gonna talk about Adrian Tchaikovsky, because the world made me read 1.5 Adrian Tchaikovskys this year. We'll start with the one I DNF'd, and that was Service Model. I read like 150 pages of this. And part of the problem is I don't like robot stories like this. Like, I just don't. Now, I'm not going to say I don't like robot stories. Jinbad of Shantiport is a book I read this year. One of the main characters is a robot. Really liked it. Actually, 2 of the main characters in that book are robots. What I haven't been vibing with is the robot story of a robot made to serve humanity, now trying to find their own purpose. That one doesn't do it for me. I don't know why. It's not like a bad theme. There's nothing objectively wrong with it. I feel nothing with this theme. Like, I think there's a musical, One Best Tony. I usually always listen to all the musicals. I've listened to half of it. It has Darren Criss. I love Darren Criss. I just don't care about these robots finding their own purpose in life. And also, I don't know. Maybe that means, I think I do like it a bit more when it's humans, but that's also usually because there is more window dressing around it. Like, whenever it's with robots, it's like a fish out of water. They're experiencing everything for the first time, fresh eyes, finding their purpose, and that's it. And I think when you're doing this through the lens of humans, you have a bit more stuff on it, and it's not so hyper-focused the only thing. That said, I just found it really boring, and I was listening to it, and I was having an okay time. There was nothing, like, wrong with it. But then I looked at my phone, and I'd been listening to it all morning. I'm like, what do you mean I am 25% of the way done? Like, oh my goodness. And, like, I know everyone's like, oh, I'm so amazed at how many different ways he can write things. There's one thing he always does, and that is he overwrites. There is not a single thing I have consumed by him, and I have consumed a novella that is not too long. So I read Service Model, and I didn't finish it. And then I did finish Alien Clay, because everyone was like, I really liked Alien Clay, so I read Alien Clay, and I think both of these were for the Hugos, and I don't remember if these were for anything else, but that's why I read them. Alien Clay is fine. It's just that I hate the main character. He's just so pretentious, and I just hate him. Like, there's a lot of scientist characters I've had to read this year that are so pretentious. Like, why must authors do this? The biologist in Annihilation, so pretentious. Like, if the work's not pretentious, the biologist is pretentious. And then this man here, I don't even remember his name, who's, like, perpetually on a soapbox about revolution and academia. And also, I think, like, I don't know. I've read other academia books this year that I thought were actually more realistic and more emotionally impactful, such as The Practice, The Horizon, and The Chain. A lot of academics really won't do what this person does, so I guess kudos to him for walking the walk and not just talking it. But also he's kind of forced to, and that's like kind of part of the plot. I thought that the alien stuff is cool. The genetic stuff was interesting. as someone who knows genetics, I was like, cool. I think the last third was like, ooh, I like this. There was some like intrigue there, but it was too long and I hated the main character, and I don't think it's like that wildly unique of a premise. I can see why people really resonate with them because of the timeliness of the themes of authoritarian governments and the war against science. And like, trust me, I'm anti the war against science. Every day I'm in the classroom trying to make people understand how vaccines work. Trust me, I know. But this just didn't do it for me, personally. And probably it's because of the messenger. And sometimes the messenger matters. And this main character was the most pretentious dude bro scientist, and I hated him, and I know people like him, and I don't like him. Like, I don't enjoy the man. So yeah. And I guess the last book we'll talk about, which was easily the worst book I read this year, and I didn't finish the series, although the second book was better, and that's The Dragonbone Chair by Tad Williams. And again, this is because I don't like Simon. Oh, I don't like Simon. I don't like Simon at all. Like I said, the second book's better. I think there's some growth for Simon in the second book. I think at that point it was more just, how am I supposed to, like at that point after reading the second book, I had read half of the trilogy. The third book is as long as both of the first two books put together. And I was like, I have to love myself a little. And fall semester was like so busy. So I wasn't forcing that. But Dragonbone Chair, it just has so many tropes that don't work for me just as a baseline. It's very Tolkien-inspired fantasy. Fine. Not a big deal there. I can definitely see how this is what was being written in conversation of, or maybe inspired, Realm of the Elderlings and A Song of Ice and Fire, both of which I like more. So, way to go improve on, I guess, the blueprint. This first one is definitely more like farcier to me. The second one feels more like a Game of Thrones to me. And so I don't like Simon and his woe is me attitude. I think a lot of the female characters are really poorly constructed, personally. I do really like the wolf. I do really like the mentor characters we got. The world building style is stupid. And I'm the queen of liking an exposition dump. Like, tell me how your magic system works every day. Go ahead, do it. But I don't really want to learn about your world in this. And it's interesting because I've seen this done better recently where like people in world will tell stories. But the stories aren't really about what's happening to our main character. They're more just like stories that do give flavor text to the world and kind of show you thematically what the world cares about. I don't really want to be told all my important political and magical history in this way. And that happened a lot in this first book. And it was proper noun soup. And I have so little patience for proper noun soup this year. Like, so little. I don't know why. And that's not inherently this book's fault. But this book definitely, so many names. So many places and people, and they're supposed to be culturally distinct, and let me tell you, they don't feel culturally distinct. Like and I just don't like it that much. You want to make things that are culturally distinct? I have other series I really like that do that. This one doesn't do it for me. So I tried Tad Williams. Maybe one day I'll try his sci-fi. Maybe. But I also think these were a lot long for what they are. But that said, like I said, the second book, like, this was like a 2-star. This is easily my least favorite thing I read this year. The second book was like a 3.5 star. Like, it was like fine. If the series were full of 500-page books, I would have finished it. The last book's as long as a Stormlight Archive, if not longer than some of them. That's a no. I only read Stormlight Archive length books when it's the Stormlight Archive or something else I really love. Dandelion Dynasty. I know, I have to love it at that point. Like, I have to love it. So yeah, that's this year. Like I said, it's really not that bad. All things considered, I had a lot of great books this year, and I'm happy about it. And again, if you love these, that's great. I didn't take anything away from you. You still love them. And if you just want to leave an emoji to let me know you're here, I guess leave a dragon. And feel free to let me know the misses for you down in the comments below. It doesn't even matter if it's a book I love. Feel free. And otherwise, like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.